Well, welcome back to the When I Heard This podcast. My name is Nate Robinson. I'm here with Pastor Joseph Tillman, MDiv, soon to be D-Man. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm well.
Okay.
I'm well. I'm repping my Bulldogs, honoring my dad. This was his favorite little Bulldog logo, the old school
The
Georgia
old
Bulldog.
school one?
Yep. So
The one with a crooked mouth?
I'm good. Don't you talk trash about my dogs.
Well, cool.
Yeah, man.
Today we're talking about abortion again.
We are.
More abortion. Zzz.
With the goal that there would be less over time.
Go to Patreon, $5. Like, subscribe, share, comment, follow, download. You can follow the podcast on Facebook and Instagram at When I Heard This Podcast, and X and locals at When I Heard This. Ring the notification bell and tell everyone that you know about the show. Also, website, t-shirts.
Mm-hmm.
People heard me say every single thing.
They did.
Mm-hmm.
Well done.
More abortions, Joseph. Your favorite thing to talk about?
No, not really.
My favorite thing to talk about.
That's a little scary. Concerning.
Yeah. So we left off last episode, and we were like, do we really want to start the next episode with this question? And we decided to do it anyway. So, rape and incest.
Uh-huh.
That's fun to say out loud.
That's you, man.
Okay, rape and incest. So the thing is that it's like exceptions.
Yes.
Like, I don't like killing babies except for if the baby's dad was an asshole. So, rape and incest, what do you think? What does Jesus think?
Okay. So first of all, it's a real thing, right?
And how are women supposed to deal with this?
Yeah.
If you say no.
Yeah, I gotcha. Yeah, I mean, it's a real thing. And, I mean, first of all, my heart absolutely breaks when rape occurs just at all, obviously. I know way too many women who have been, and not just know them, but very close with too many women that have been raped or sexually assaulted. So, like, my heart absolutely breaks. And then if pregnancy, it comes out of that, I mean, that's just, it's like, it's compounding, right? I mean, you already have one trauma, and then now you're stepping from trauma into, oh my gosh, now I'm pregnant. And that's a lot to deal with. That's a lot to take in. And so, so when we talk about this, I think it's foolish to jump straight into talking about just about the unborn. Like, if that becomes the unborn child, that becomes the only point of conversation, I think we've missed it. So because two people need to be cared for in this situation. There's rape and incest, or incest. I mean, obviously, so, you know, the woman who has been raped needs to be cared for, needs to be supported, needs to be loved. I mean, you know, you hope that, you know, she has family and friends that can be there for her and support her and care for her. You know, you hope that, you know, she's able to get, you know, if she needs counseling, to get counseling, you know, I mean, all that kind of stuff. And then I think so often it's, well, you know, the questions begin to come, you know, can I parent this child? Do I want to parent this child? And then of course you get the questions of, do I even want to go through with the pregnancy? Do I want to have a daily reminder of what's happened to me? And so, and obviously the conversation points can really go across the board. You can have some that are like, I just cannot deal with this. I don't want to deal with facing the pregnancy every day, knowing that reminding me of the rape that happened. And then you have others that will, you know, kind of on the very opposite end, that will say, at least one thing good came out of this. And in other words, the rape, obviously not good, obviously horrible and horrific, but I have a child, and that, you know, like, for some people view it that way. And so then of course there's the other part of, well, I'm willing to carry the child through pregnancy, but then just know I can raise this child for vast many reasons. And so adoption is the best option. And so let's put the baby up for adoption. So there's just, I think the woman can be overwhelmed with the amount of things going on. And so my heart goes out to the woman in that situation. And it's like, again, the rape itself is already emotionally, mentally, physically traumatic. Well, abortions can be the same way. And so you don't want to compound trauma on trauma. If you can avoid doing that. Because even those that are for abortions will acknowledge the sense of loss and the emotional part that is tied up with abortions.
Why do you think that is?
I think it's because, for lack of a better phrase, I think it's just a womanly instinct in other words, like there's the cat again. This cat
get down.
This cat's all about hanging out with us in these last couple episodes. All right, come on, Kitty. Yep. And I think that I think for women that motherly instinct kind of kicks in quickly, and so when you make the choice to have an abortion and the child's no longer there, I think that for women it's an emotional thing. It's different than it's I think connected to the sense of womanhood, if I'm being honest. A pregnancy is,
So you're saying even if I believe that abortion's okay, I'm still going to have these problems?
It can still be emotional. Sure.
Or a woman would still have these problems?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, they can still be emotional.
And that
absolutely
pro-choice, pro-abortion people believe or think that also? I
think some do.
Okay.
Yeah, especially those that have gone through it.
Okay.
Yeah. And now, I mean, obvious, and some of them keep it. So, and this is kind of the conversation point of where you hear about things, then you actually talk to people, right?
Okay.
And so, like, I'm just going to speak from those I have spoken with, that have had abortions, and like some of them keep like. There was someone,
people that got aborted
that had abortions. I know people who've had abortions.
Okay.
Yes. So, but
sorry.
Yes. So there's, yeah.
You're not supposed to laugh.
No. So there's one person that I know that, and they kept it as a secret. For between 15 and 20 years, and actually had a couple of abortions during that time, and so kept it as a secret, and they never told anyone, and it just kind of just ate them up over time, and so anyway, all I'm saying is, and they felt very justified and right in doing so at the time, and so I just think that over time. It just
you feel worse about it?
Emotionally, it can get you.
Okay.
Yeah. And so
back to rape.
But back, yeah. So caring for the woman, but then also caring for that unborn child. And so the unborn child needs love and needs care. And I think that the tension in there becomes, well, if for some people, it's like to love and care for one might mean to remove the other.
Okay.
Through one lens, like to love and care for the woman would actually mean to remove the unborn child. But at that point, we're not dealing with just one human life. We're dealing with two human lives. So
you say no exceptions.
I'm saying in this for rape, I'm saying that. For those that don't want to, and I get it, those that do not want to raise a child that even though they've been raped, they've had the child, and they want to put that child up for abortion, or excuse me, for adoption. Yeah, put that child up for adoption. I think
you did the thing.
Yeah, put the child up for adoption. I think that's an honorable thing for that woman to do.
Okay.
And I do want to debunk one myth.
So, aborting a rape baby is dishonorable.
Yeah, but I think it's dishonorable to anytime we kill innocent life.
Okay.
And so, and I think that, I do want to debunk kind of one myth, that I've heard. It's that, so that child, is the product of rape, and then you put the child up for abortion, or excuse me, God Almighty.
Abortion.
You put that child up for adoption, and now that child's gonna be put into a foster home and have a crappy life, because in a foster system, those kind of things. But the reality is that newborns almost always get adopted.
Okay.
There's such a demand for newborns for adoption purposes. I mean, so you just connect with an adoption agency, they will help you, connect with a family. The mother actually gets to play a part in choosing the family that the baby goes to.
Oh yeah.
And so I think it's a very honorable thing to do. And I think for the woman too, going through it, it can be a sense of even relief for her that she knows that she can help put her child in the best situation she can.
And you think that's good?
Yeah.
After this situation?
I do.
Do you think it's better that would you as pastor, Christian person, rather actual mother raise it, or do you think it's better for I think it completely depends on the mother. Okay.
Yeah, I don't think it's better to put the child up for adoption. I think it's completely the mother's choice. But if the mother chooses to put the child up for adoption, I think it's awesome.
So you're okay with choice?
I'm absolutely okay. I am absolutely okay with the choice of whether the mother's going to keep the child or whether the mother's going to put the child up for adoption.
Okay.
Yes. So, so I don't
put the child up for abortion.
Adoption. And so I think, so for me, I don't, because it all goes back to the fact of viewing and seeing that child as a human being, the unborn as a human being, the embryo, that fetus, whatever it may be, as a human being. And so, and I think I've heard people talk about like as if this is happening all the time, this situation, and even the most gracious stats will tell you this is 1%. And
of what?
Of individuals individuals that get abortions.
Oh, 1% of them are because of rape or incest? Okay.
And that's like at the high level. I think it was the state of Florida that did a study, and it was over, I think it was like 8. It was a large number of women. And anyway, it came back that it was like 0.14 filed or excuse me, had an abortion because of rape. So it was like 0.14%. So it wasn't even a whole percent. And so I'm not downplaying that it's real, that it happens, and the severity of it. But I'm also saying I don't think we should make, or really like anything, make the extreme, like we shouldn't make that extreme become or be seen as if it's the norm.
Oh, okay.
Because that's simply not the case. And so I think it's, like 2% of children are aborted, quote unquote. 1% due to abortion for like rape kind of thing, and then there's like another like 1% that has to do with medical abortions. So
of the 2%.
Yeah. No. Of that would comprise the 2%.
Okay, so say baby is going to be brain dead forever. And doctors know this 100% for sure, that baby is going to be brain dead and then die.
Okay.
Is it okay to abort the baby?
No.
Why not?
Because now you're placing a utilitarian value on that child.
Yeah, but if there was an old guy, the family would make the decision on whether to pull the plug if they were never going to wake up and were brain dead.
That's a very different.
So what's the difference?
Those are very different acts. In other words, one is a passive and one is an active form of killing. And so and I mean, killing of death. And so, in other words, one is a passive.
Why does that matter?
I think it matters in a huge degree.
Yeah, but
because if someone is brain dead, right? We have an older person. Use your example. That's brain dead. Then to remove life support from them, okay, is actually it's passive. Okay. So, in other words, yes, I am going to remove what is keeping that person alive through life support, but I'm not actively killing them. It's the difference between passive and active euthanasia. We allow passive euthanasia to happen in this country on a daily basis, but active euthanasia is not allowed.
Okay, so if the doctor went in and snipped the umbilical cord, kind of like unplugging the machine to the baby because it's going to be brain dead, is that the same thing?
Yeah, but what happens in an abortion is not that, and you know that. Like, it's one thing to induce labor.
Okay.
Right? Knowing the child's going to die from a medical emergency. But this isn't that. This is like you would have to, so you're going to abort the baby. And so an abortion most often is so whether it's chemicals, whether it's mutilation, it's horrific.
Yeah.
The act of abortion. So that's what I'm saying is that's an active process.
Okay, so if
taking a life.
If the baby was brain dead and they induced labor at like 8 months, and then they stuck brain dead baby on a machine just to passively unplug the machine so that baby would die when it was brain dead, is that why go through all that instead of?
Because I think there's it's interesting you talk about.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And I was talking to my wife about this without really even knowing this question was there. I was talking to my wife about this topic the other day, and she said, that the idea of being able for a woman to be able to give birth to that child, hold that child, and kind of have a sense of closure with that child is a huge difference between it helps it actually can be helpful for the woman. Okay, because if you're talking about the child's brain dead, let's say parents were wanting this child, the child's they know the child's brain dead and the child's not going to survive long, if at all, once born, then those parents are already devastated enough. Okay. So they're wanting a child now that, and so at least give the parents the opportunity to hold that child, to love that child. And, and depending on, if they're religious, there's actually, ceremonies and liturgy to walk through with that stuff. Even if they're not religious, there's still just the sense of, I can hold that child, have a sense of closure, with that child, say goodbye. They may have already named the child at that point, but say goodbye to that child, that kind of thing. And so I think that's actually healthy. whereas, man, you already experienced loss, and now we're going to, have an abortion. And I mean, you're kind of I feel like you're kind of piling up suffering and grief even more so. So,
yeah.
And again,
it feels like illogical to me to go through all these unnecessary steps instead of stopping the inevitable.
Yeah, but okay, but so to be clear,
okay,
if we're talking about we know that child is brain dead,
yeah,
like we're already you understand how far along in the process we are developmentally, right? So the abortion that's done is not just at best you could induce labor, like you were talking about.
Okay, so if we didn't call that an abortion and we called that inducing labor, to get the process going, do you have a problem with that?
Here's the problem I guess I have is if it started becoming an issue health wise for the mother, obviously that's fine.
Okay,
go ahead and do that. But there's also the reality that there's tests and things that doctors do even now, and they think it's going to end up being one way, and then it doesn't. They think that child may have special needs, be handicapped, be deformed, have Down syndrome, whatever it may be, and then the child is born, and that's not the case. So it's not. In other words, that's not a perfect science either. Okay. And so I guess I would just hesitate to say yes to that, because you don't want to risk something if that child may actually be healthy.
Okay.
Right. Now, again, once we're into the latter part of a third trimester, that child can be viable outside of the womb.
Okay.
And so therefore you get into the position of where it's not as great of a risk to the mother or to the child.
To what?
To induce labor.
Okay.
Right. But even then, especially if it's early part of the third trimester, you're still talking about, if they induce labor, the child lives, then you're talking about that child being in the NICU for quite a long time. Like you get into all that different stuff too. Mm-hmm. So,
okay.
I just think allowing it to naturally play its course is probably the best option.
Why do you want women to be poor forever?
What? When did I say that I wanted women to be poor forever?
Because if you and your Christianness make me have my baby and I'm poor, then I'm going to be poor forever.
Okay.
So I have to get an abortion because I don't want to be poor.
Okay.
And not be able to feed a child.
Okay.
So I need an abortion.
Okay.
So what do you say to that?
All right. So, all right. One, I think it's a big deal because I think there's a lot of abortions that happen because of this reasoning.
Okay.
All right. So
is this the most common reason?
Is it the most common? I think probably the top two is economic situations and pressure from partner or from parents.
Okay, we're getting to that one.
Okay. So I think it's probably the top two.
Okay.
And so man, I think there are so many resources now for individuals. So like, in other words, if they're concerned about how do I make it through the pregnancy, pay for the pregnancy, all that kind of stuff, there are so many resources now with pregnancy support centers and organizations such as Love Life, which is a national organization that actually help provide and the care and the financial support for people who may find themselves in need of financial support through the pregnancy. And so if that's the issue, I would plead for people to don't have an abortion on that basis, because there can be the financial provision. If you feel like you can, if you feel like it's the after the child's being born, that's the economic issue.
Right.
Okay. So two things. One, adoption. And I will say it till the cows come home, is such an incredible gift you can give to that child and to another family.
So you don't have a problem with anybody giving their babies up for adoption?
I have a problem with anybody giving their babies up for adoption. And I think adoption is it's a great option.
Option compared to anything else?
Compared to definitely compared to abortion.
Okay.
Obviously, I think that, and this happens some too, where you have an individual, they believe they do want to put the child up for adoption, will go through that process, and then will choose to back out of that process because they realize they do want that child after all. And most state laws are in place to where you have like 30 days after the child is born to make the final decision.
Okay.
Some of them it's 2 weeks. I think there's one state that's really long, like maybe even like a year, which I think is way too long.
Yeah.
I think that's not healthy for that child or for the parents that received that child. I think that's not healthy for probably any of the parties involved. But, for a 30-day window or 2-week window, I think that's very reasonable. So I think adoption's a great option for parents or for a woman that feels like I can't raise this child. My options are abortion or adoption. Choose adoption. Every time, choose adoption.
Okay. You said it right that time.
Yeah, good. Thank God. And so I think there's so many, and there's more pregnancy centers than there are Planned Parenthood centers.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought Planned Parenthoods were like everywhere.
Nah. They kind of portray themselves as that, but they're not. And there's so many pregnancy support centers and services in almost every small town you go to.
Okay.
I say small town. In a lot of towns, there's those pregnancy support groups, support centers, and so which help women in this very situation navigate these things. So I don't think the economic part has to be a reason for abortion. And I definitely think there's a lot of other options out there to help individuals get through that. And then, of course, I will say for us as a church, and I can only speak for our church family, for us as a church, if we had someone and we knew that it was going to be financially difficult, we would want to come up alongside that individual and help them financially through that process and through that journey, for the sake of them and for that child. So we would, even if they're married and that kind of we want to come up alongside you and help you. So.
Okay. What about if the woman's boyfriend or parents are forcing them to get an abortion?
Okay.
Before and after.
Okay. Forcing them to get an abortion by what means?
I don't know.
But by saying, if you don't get an abortion, you're out of this house, or, from the parent's perspective, or maybe the boyfriend's perspective, or, for the boyfriend, if you don't get an abortion, I'm out of here. Is that kind of what you're talking about? So where they feel, in other words, they feel like they're losing their support system.
Right.
And they'd be doing it alone.
Or if you don't get an abortion, I'll stop buying your favorite yogurt.
Okay. Sure.
All the way down to that dumb.
Right. I think, again, this is where the pregnancy support centers and other organizations are needed, and to provide a support for an individual that's in that situation. I know someone, they were told, if you don't get an abortion, you're out of the house.
How old were they?
Teenager.
Okay. That was my question.
Yeah. And so someone else, thank God, offered for them to come and live with them.
How does that work? They're a teenager.
It depends on how old you are. Right.
Right.
And so
how does a pregnancy center deal with a teenager that comes to them?
But parents aren't going to tell a 13 or 14-year-old child that.
Get out of my house?
Yeah. They could, but
they might.
Yeah. And if they did, if they did and that situation happened, then that child can find other places to go. And all I'm saying is that at that point, it get messy. Because if the child left, then you're getting defects involved, and that the government would even have issues with that. I'll put it that way. Now, if you're an older teen, where if you have the individual right to leave the house,
okay,
right, then that's a whole different topic. You can't just go live with somebody else. You can go move in with someone and allow them to help you, as you're going through the pregnancy.
Okay, so the 13-year-old, what's she doing? She can either get the abortion or deal with all this shit.
Yeah, man. And I get it. If the parents are like, this is going to ruin your life. This is right, man. I get that from the parents' perspective, because it is going to change that person's life. There's no way around it. But again, it doesn't have to change it for the bad. It's going to change it, but it doesn't have to be seen as horrible, right? That child can still go to school and still, do work and that kind of stuff. But then, or not work, but schoolwork. But then obviously at some point the child's going to have to give birth to this baby. And again, I'll say it again. This is where adoption can come in for an unexpected pregnancy like this at that young of an age.
So you're talking to parents of pregnant teenager right now.
If I'm talking
saying put them up for adoption or put the child up for adoption instead of force her to get an abortion.
Yeah, put that grandbaby up for adoption.
Okay.
Yeah. Encourage your daughter to do that.
Okay.
Yeah. Or if I'm talking to parents of a 13-year-old child who's got pregnant, or I think the most ideal thing would be, hey, parents, if you feel like your child can't, if your child wants to keep, you want to keep the baby, help her raise it. Help her raise that child. And so, but don't kick the child out of the house. That's to me, that's that.
So really, this is more about
that breaks my heart. I can't imagine doing that. I have a 13-year-old daughter, so this isn't like fairy world for me. This is like real. Like I can't imagine asking my daughter to leave the house over something like this. I can't fathom it. And so, I think that you come up and you provide support and the best you can. And it's a change, and it can be traumatic and dramatic, but you deal with it, and hopefully you walk with that. You don't just kick the child; you care for the child, and so, anyway,
or adoption,
and that is a really viable option, because maybe a 13 or 14-year-old is not a place to be able to raise a child, and so therefore adoption can be a great option for them.
All right, this question's a bait and switch question.
Okay.
All right. What happens to babies when they're aborted?
What happens to babies when they're aborted?
Yeah, where do they go?
You talking about heaven or hell issues? Heaven.
So what's the problem? If I want the best thing for my unborn child, wouldn't straight to heaven be the nicest thing I could do for it?
Yeah, but with that logic, I could apply that to, wouldn't it be the nicest thing that I could do for you right now?
Yes.
And I could just pull the trigger and end your life. And that'd be the nicest thing I could do for you right now.
My wife might be mad, but she'll get over it.
As I'm sitting behind bars. Yeah. And so, I think that's what...
Nate Robinson.
Okay, but you're making that choice.
Give express written consent.
Right. You're making... Now, that'd be different. You're making that choice, right?
What choice?
The choice to be killed.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Guess what? Who's not making that choice? The child in the womb.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I'm sorry. Your examples don't really hold water.
Okay. Why are they going to heaven?
Why are they going to heaven?
Yeah.
As opposed to hell?
Yeah.
Because
they were aborted?
No, because any child, we refer to it as an age of accountability. Any child that is killed prior to them being able to accept Christ is going straight to heaven.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fine. That was a pointless question. I'm still going to leave it in, though.
Okay.
All right, so now law stuff.
Okay.
Because you're a pastor.
I am?
Yes.
All right.
All right. According to Christians, should abortion be legal?
Okay. According to Christians, should abortion be legal?
Yeah.
Most Christians would like to see a federal law put into place that makes it illegal to have abortions, because abortion is seen as the killing of innocent life.
So the question then becomes, why can't abortion be legal, but you just don't get one? And let me believe what I want to believe and get a bunch of abortions, and you can get no abortions.
Sure.
And we all can be happy.
Sure. Because you're trying to make this a religious, that's like the religious debate, right?
Yes.
And so what I'm saying is, even as a Christian, as a pastor, I don't think we have to make this a religious debate. I think that's why there's so many secular pro-life groups.
Wait, what? What are you talking about?
Yeah. Like there's...
No, I mean like what?
So here's what I'm saying.
What's the point of going this direction with this question?
Okay. Because here's what I'm saying. Because I don't have to make it a religious argument to say we're not going to kill innocent human life. That's a scientific argument.
Okay.
So, yes, as a Christian, do I believe that they have the image of God? They have sanctity of life. We should not have abortions. Yes, but I can also make a scientific argument that says those are human beings. To take their life is actually killing them. It's actually murder. We would not allow murder on any other scale to just be okay to do legally. Mm-hmm. And so therefore we should not allow abortion to be legal. Because it's not just a religious debate.
So you're saying that because science says this thing, we should form our laws around science. The science of this thing, and that has nothing to do with your religion.
Right. Because if we're saying that all humans, right, in our country, we say that humans have rights, right?
Okay.
Rights of life.
And this is a human.
This is a human.
Right of life.
So they should have the right to life.
Okay. And you think that the law should reflect that?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. The same way that we have national laws that reflect that at every other point of life, we should with this as well.
And you're 100% not at all saying this because you're a Christian.
I mean, obviously, I have a Christian perspective. As a pastor and as a Christian, I view people in the image of God and that they have sanctity of life. That's what I can say from a religious perspective. Mm-hmm. Even if you don't believe in image of God or sanctity of life,
you still believe,
or the sacredness of life, you can still believe in the rights of every human life.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
All right.
Yeah, and
even though they all look like seahorses.
Even if they all look like seahorses, Nate. And so, because looks don't have to do with anything over whether the human has rights.
All right.
Yeah. Because,
okay, well, that's really mean and rude, so.
Well, it's not mean and rude. If I genuinely believe that human, or that let's say embryo, is a human.
And has rights, then laws should be that.
Right. That's what I believe.
Well, there's lots of people who don't believe that.
Oh, I know.
So
I know.
Why should you win versus them?
I
when
know.
It comes to the law.
All right. Right. I know. And I know that there are people that have been upset over the states getting the rights to determine this. I think it's better than Roe v. Wade, but I still don't love it. But even, regardless if it's on state level, if it's on the national level, for me, again, it just is a simple thing of that's a human life.
Maggie, oh my God. Come on.
Can't throw it on both. So, because if
trying to talk about abortion,
I know because if the taking, if we view the taking of human life or we say it's wrong to kill innocent human life, abortion is killing innocent human life, therefore abortion is wrong. Like that to me makes it's just sense.
Okay.
So I think that's
what the law should be.
Yeah.
And
that's what the law should be. Regardless,
everyone that doesn't think so,
regardless of one's religion,
is wrong.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, for me, that's what I would say. And again, I completely understand there's people who completely disagree with me.
Okay.
I'm not naive to that fact. I get that. I realize that.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if I agree with you.
Okay. That's fine.
I don't know why, but
yeah,
I don't know if I agree with you.
I just believe in protecting human life from conception
I do know
to
why.
death.
There's a question coming later about it.
Okay.
All right, so this is a legal problem I have, and you're going to have to explain it to me.
Okay.
Because I asked the question, and this is what I do, and you do the other part of this.
Right.
So the problem is that if you made abortion, if abortion became illegal, then you'd have the government all up in ladies' business.
Okay.
All the time.
Okay.
Because it wouldn't just be like the government stops you from getting an abortion. There'd have to be like, oh, you got pregnant, you're on the list now, and we need to make sure you're not killing it, and people are going to come to your door every day and make sure you're still fat, and blah, blah, blah. So, so that worries me.
Okay.
About making abortion illegal.
Okay.
So, what do you say to that?
I think you're exaggerating the reality of it, because I don't think that you're going to be put on some list and people come to your door all the time. Like, I just don't think that's reality. I think that
why?
Because if an individual is pregnant, they go to an OBGYN, it's confirmed they're pregnant, that kind of thing. And then, I mean, doctors.
But the government would have to keep up with that and be like, we need to make sure this lady has this baby.
The government doesn't keep up with that.
Yeah, but
because the government's not checking on you for that.
Yeah, but if the government registers what's inside you as a human being at conception, then the government has an interest in keeping one of its citizens alive from you killing it. Okay. Right? So wouldn't there be stuff that would happen?
Okay, I see what you're saying.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. So in other words, you're saying, so for example, where we receive birth certificates now.
Right.
You're saying there would need to be some form of documentation to certify that there's a human being inside you.
Yes.
I could see that.
Yeah.
I could see that.
So this all worries me.
Okay.
About making abortion illegal.
Okay.
That we go really far that other direction.
Okay.
So what do you say to that?
Yeah. Well,
because even if you had to get if a miscarriage happened,
right,
there'd be courts involved.
No, there wouldn't be courts involved. No.
Okay.
No.
We need to present evidence that this happened. Do you have documentation that this happened?
But that's often documented within doctors, within OBGYNs and their patients.
So would the OBGYN be the one sending to a court who cares that one of their citizens is now dead?
Sure. They can file that.
Okay, so all that's weird to me.
Right, and I understand, and I get it. But again, I don't think, and I agree, I think a lot of our laws have become too invasive or intrusive, or a lot of laws can be seen as too cumbersome or annoying or bothersome, or why are they government doing this, government doing that? I get that. But we're still talking about human life.
Okay.
We're still talking about protecting human life. And so I do think there's a rational, reasonable way. And again, I know our government doesn't do anything hardly rational or reasonable.
Right.
So, like, I understand that. But I think there's a way to approach it that doesn't have to become some like where you feel like the government's almost like waiting for the gotcha moment,
right?
You know, for every pregnancy. And so, I mean, I don't think there would have to be much difference in what's going on now. Honestly, it's just, hey, we're going to say abortions are not. I mean, if you put it simply as abortions are not legal, right?
Mm.
Then, and it is against the law for doctors to, do an abortion procedure. Like, you make that illegal. Same way we make it illegal, you cannot have medically assisted euthanasia.
Go after. Okay. See, I just worry about like what's happened to divorce.
Okay.
And how there's an entire divorce
court
and
lawyers
industry now.
Sure.
And I see the same thing happening with the unborn,
right? Where
there's private investigators now seeing if she's still pregnant. And
I think it could be as simple. Honestly, I think it could be as simple as abortions are illegal. Doctors cannot perform abortions. Legally. We leave it at that.
That's it. No,
I think it could be
coat hanger police.
No, I think it could be as simple as that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So to women thinking about getting an abortion, what would you say to them?
Okay.
As a pastor, Joseph, you.
Right. Okay. Number one, like, what is like to ask, like, what is the primary reason for wanting the abortion?
Okay.
Because I think that matters. Like, is it because of rape? Is it because of economics? Is it because of pressure from your family or your friends? Is it, is it because it's going to throw a massive curveball into your life and you feel like it's going to change so much of your life and even the direction of your life? And so I think all of those, I think we just need to like determine the why behind it. And then begin to talk through that, so if it's economic, all right, what can we do to help with the economic side of it? If it's the pressure from family and friends, well, because you put it in the context of me as a pastor talking with someone, then I'm going to say, well, would it be okay if I talk to the family, whether that be parents, partner, whatever it may be, and let's talk about it. Hopefully, talk with them, and if you feel like you have a failed support system around you, can we be that support system for you as a church family? And I will say, I want to give a kind of a shout out to an organization called Love Life. They do an incredible job with the very thing I'm talking about, with helping individuals that have that are considering abortions get connected into local churches that will help walk them through this journey or walk with them through this journey. So Love Life does amazing. You can look them up. They're based out of Charlotte, but they have Love Lives all over the country. And so, what services are available that we can find for an individual? If it's, again, the financial side, if it's the support side, we can provide the support. And then if it's the concern of, oh my goodness, there's no way I can care for a child, whether that be because of economic reasons, season of life reasons, your age, whatever it is, right? Okay, well, what can we look into adoption? All right. And then, honestly, I would say if you're looking at having an abortion, look up videos of what happens to that embryo and fetus during an abortion.
Okay.
Because, watch that. See what an abortion actually entails. because I think that in of itself is highly educational, of going, oh my gosh, they're not just giving me some
educational.
Yeah.
Like, we'll show you how to do it yourself?
No, like educational as in this is actually what transpires medically during an abortion. And it's pretty horrific. I mean, you're talking about the dismembering of a child or the chemically burning up of a child. I mean, it's pretty horrific. So, like, be aware that that's what's going to happen. I think so many go into it unaware. They think if I'll just, it'll be a simple kind of painless procedure, but it's not, because it's a procedure, it's a surgery. And I think that the effects of that afterward, physically, emotionally, mentally, oftentimes is understated by those that are offering the services of abortion. That they're not being fully upfront with what's going to actually transpire and happen. But then most importantly for me again is,
wait, how is that legal?
What's that?
Not telling people what's going to happen during a surgery.
Man, yeah, it should be. Like, you should be forced to do it. But most Planned Parenthood services will not show that, they've done these. You've probably seen these like documentaries and stuff where they've gone into Planned Parenthoods and said, well, can at least, someone's, oh, can you at least show me what's going to happen? And they'll say no, because the reality of it is very different than what they want to convey it to be. And then I think most importantly, it's a human life that we're talking about. It's not just the mother's life. It's the mother's life and the child's life, the unborn child's life. So I think the reality is, like, so if I'm talking to someone pastorally, I'm going, let's consider the human life element here that's at play. Like, that the human life element matters, that it's more than just I think we kind of phrase it, well, it's just more than an embryo. It looks more than just like, what did you use?
A seahorse.
Yeah, a seahorse. Like, it looks different. Like, and I can remember, like, we have 3 kids. So I remember the first time seeing ultrasounds of, like, our first 2 was really, early on in the pregnancy. And, and you're just kind of like, oh, it's like a little bean or a little, like, there's just not much there. Right. And then I remember with our third one, by the time Melanie realized she was pregnant, by the time we went to the doctor and did an ultrasound and everything, she was already past the first trimester.
Oh.
So we were like 13 weeks, I think, pregnant already. And we're looking at the ultrasound thing, and we're going, oh my God, that's a baby. Like, compared to, like, our first 2 where it was like within the first month, there's just not much to see there at all.
Guess I got to quit smoking.
Yeah. And then thank God that wasn't an issue for us. Yeah. So, but for our youngest, again, at 13 weeks, we sat there and were like, wow, that's a baby. And I mean, that's only at 13 weeks, and so I think that, again, I think people just need to be more informed.
Okay.
So, but again,
so go watch videos of abortions.
I mean, yeah. And realize that it's a human life.
I do it all the time. Every day. That's all I watch.
That's very disturbing. And you and I are going to have conversations after this. So,
okay, so to people who already got abortions,
yep,
can they go to heaven?
Absolutely.
Okay. What do you want to say to them?
I want to speak to a few different parties here. One is the woman who had the abortion, but then number 2 is partners or husbands who have encouraged their girlfriend or their wife to have an abortion.
Okay.
3, or family members, parents who encouraged it. And maybe even 4th one, I know people who have actually financially paid for abortions.
Okay.
And then later on deeply regretted that.
What about the doctors who do the abortions?
Yeah, I mean, same thing.
Okay.
And so I think that there's just, there's just a reality of that. So for all those individuals, I guess I would say that absolutely forgiveness can be had. Absolutely, you can, come to Christ, be cleansed, be made whole, and have abundant life with Him and eternal life with Him. And again, I know several women who've had abortions. Multiple women who've had abortions, and thank God that by His grace, by His forgiveness, and usually with the help of others around them, that in church, family, and community, and especially those that have had abortions too, and can come up alongside them and say, "Hey, I got forgiveness. I received healing emotionally and spiritually from this. You can too." And so I guess that's what I would say, because my heart breaks for them, because I know that there's individuals that, especially, man, you've had abortions, you've paid for abortions, and now you come to know Christ, and it's just like, oh, what have I done? Literally just talking to an individual, a gentleman about this week, this last week about it, and he paid for an abortion, and just broken by that, that all these years later going, oh my God, what did I do? And so
she'd have gotten the money for somewhere else.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it.
That's terrible. And so, for those that have had abortions, or for those that provided financially for it, or who encouraged it, and now are, I'll say now you're kind of realizing, man, I did that. Man, why did I do that? Like, to know there's forgiveness, and to know there's grace, to know there's mercy. For those that have kept it a secret, I would say find someone and tell them, whether it's a friend, a counselor, a pastor, just kind of like unburden yourself from it. And because I've seen that happen, and where someone has kept a secret for decades, and they finally kind of get it off of their shoulders and off their chest for the first time, or maybe that it was just the husband and wife who knew, and that was it. But for them to be able to tell it, say it out loud, I think is hugely important. And so, yeah, I have close friends who have had abortions, paid for abortions, encouraged abortions, and to see their lives transformed by the grace and the love and the forgiveness of Jesus has been pretty incredible to watch. So,